Day number 89, Judges chapter 1 and 2. Chapter 1. After the death of Joshua, the Israelites asked the Lord which tribe should go first to attack the Canaanites. The Lord answered, Judah, for I have given them victory over the land. The men of Judah said to their relatives from the tribe of Simeon, join with us to fight against the Canaanites living in the territory allotted to us. Then we will help you conquer your territory. So the men of Simeon went with Judah. When the men of Judah attacked, the Lord gave them victory over the Canaanites and the Perizzites. And they killed 10,000 enemy warriors at the town of Bezek. While at Bezek, they encountered King Adoni-Bezek and fought against him. And the Canaanites and Perizzites were defeated. Adoni-Bezek escaped, but the Israelites soon captured him and cut off his thumbs and big toes. Adoni-Bezek said, I once had 70 kings with their thumbs and big toes cut off, eating scraps from under my table. Now God has paid me back for what I did to them. They took him to Jerusalem, and he died there. The men of Judah attacked Jerusalem and captured it, killing all its people and setting the city on fire. Then they went down to fight the Canaanites living in the hill country, the Negev, and the western foothills. Judah marched against the Canaanites in Hebron, formerly called Kiriath Arba, defeating the forces of Shishai, Ahiman, and Talmai. From there they went to fight against the people living in the town of Debir, formerly called Kiriath Sefer. Caleb said, I will give my daughter Akash in marriage to the one who attacks and captures Kiriath Sefer. Othniel, the son of Caleb's younger brother Kenaz, was the one who conquered it. So Akash became Othniel's wife. When Akash married Othniel, she urged him to ask her father for a field. As she got down off her donkey, Caleb asked her, What's the matter? She said, Let me have another gift. You have already given me the land in the Negev. Now please give me the springs of water too. So Caleb gave her the upper and lower springs. When the tribe of Judah left Jericho, the city of palms, the Kenites, who were descendants of Moses' father-in-law, traveled with them into the wilderness of Judah. They settled among the people there near the town of Arad in the Negev. Then Judah joined with Simeon to fight against the Canaanites living in Zephath, and they completely destroyed the town, though the town was named Hormah. In addition, Judah captured the towns of Gaza, Ashkelon, and Ekron, along with their surrounding territories. The Lord was with the people of Judah, and they took possession of the hill country. But they failed to drive out the people living in the plains, who had iron chariots. The town of Hebron was given to Caleb, as Moses had promised, and Caleb drove out the people living there, who were descendants of the 3 sons of Anak. The tribe of Benjamin, however, failed to drive out the Jebusites, who were living in Jerusalem. So to this day the Jebusites live in Jerusalem among the people of Benjamin. The descendants of Joseph attacked the town of Bethel, and the Lord was with them. They sent men to scout out Bethel, formerly known as Luz. They confronted a man coming out of the town and said to him, Show us a way into the town, and we will have mercy on you. So he showed them a way in, and they killed everyone in the town except that man and his family. Later, the man moved to the land of the Hittites, where he built a town. He named it Luz, which is its name to this day. The tribe of Manasseh failed to drive out the people living in Beth-shan, Tanakh, Dor, Iblim, Megiddo, and all their surrounding settlements, because the Canaanites were determined to stay in that region. When the Israelites grew stronger, they forced the Canaanites to work as slaves, but they never did drive them out completely out of the land. The tribe of Ephraim failed to drive out the Canaanites living in Gezer, and the Canaanites continued to live there among them. The tribe of Zebulun failed to drive out the residents of Kitron and Nahalol. Now the Canaanites continued to live among them, but the Canaanites were forced to work as slaves for the people of Zebulun. The tribe of Asher failed to drive out residents of Akko, Sidon, Alab, Akzib, Helba, Aphik, and Rehob. Instead, the people of Asher moved in among the Canaanites who controlled the land, for they failed to drive them out. Likewise, the tribe of Naphtali failed to drive out the residents of Beth Shemesh and Beth Anath. Instead, they moved in among the Canaanites who controlled the land. Nevertheless, the people of Beth Shemesh and Beth Anath were forced to work as slaves for the people of Naphtali. As for the tribe of Dan, the Amorites forced them back into the hill country and would not let them come down into the plains. The Amorites were determined to stay in Mount Heres, Ajalon, and Shalabim. But when the descendants of Joseph became stronger, they forced the Amorites to work as slaves. The boundary of the Amorites ran from Scorpion Pass to Selah and continued upward from there.
The angel of the Lord went up from Gilgal. I forgot to say. Judges 2. The angel of the Lord went up from Gilgal to Bochim and said to the Israelites, I brought you out of Egypt into this land that I swore to give your ancestors. And I said, I would never break my covenant with you. For your part, you were not to make any covenants with the people living in this land. Instead, you were to destroy their altars. But you disobeyed my command. Why did you do this? So now I declare that I will no longer drive out the people living in your land. They will be thorns in your sides, and their gods will be a constant temptation to you. When the angel of the Lord finished speaking to all the Israelites, the people wept loudly. So they called the place Bochim, which means weeping, and they offered sacrifices there to the Lord. After Joshua sent the people away, each of the tribes left to take possession of the land allotted to them, and the Israelites served the Lord throughout the lifetime of Joshua and the leaders who outlived him, those who had seen all the great things the Lord had done for Israel. Joshua, son of Nun, the servant of the Lord, died at the age of 110. They buried him in the land he had been allocated at Timnath-Serah in the hill country of Ephraim, north of Mount Gash. After that generation died, another generation grew up who did not acknowledge the Lord or remember the mighty things he had done for Israel. The Israelites did evil in the Lord's sight and served the images of Baal. They abandoned the Lord, the God of their ancestors, who had brought them out of Egypt. They went after other gods, worshiping the gods of the people around them, and they angered the Lord. They abandoned the Lord to serve Baal and the images of Ashtoreth. This made the Lord burn with anger against Israel, so he handed them over to raiders who stole their possessions. He turned them over to their enemies all around, and they were no longer able to resist them. Every time Israel went out to battle, the Lord fought against them, causing them to be defeated, just as he had warned, and the people were in great distress. Then the Lord raised up judges to rescue the Israelites from their attackers. Yet Israel did not listen to the judges, but prostituted themselves by worshiping other gods. How quickly they turned away from the path of their ancestors, who had walked in obedience to the Lord's commands. Whenever the Lord raised up a judge over Israel, he was with that judge and rescued the people from their enemies throughout the judge's lifetime. For the Lord took pity on his people, who were burdened by oppression and suffering. But when the judge died, the people returned to their corrupt ways, behaving worse than those who had lived before them. They went after other gods, serving and worshiping them, and they refused to give up their evil practices and stubborn ways. So the Lord burned with anger against Israel. He said, "Because these people have violated my covenant, which I made with their ancestors, and have ignored my commands, I will no longer drive out the nations that Joshua left unconquered when he died. I did this to test Israel, to see whether or not they would follow the ways of the Lord as their ancestors did. That is why the Lord left those nations in place. He did not quickly drive them out or allow Joshua to conquer them all."
Well, we're starting this new book, Judges, and we see how quickly the Israelites have left their path that God had laid out for them. One generation, and they're already making mistakes and not driving out the people like God asked.
Yeah, it says how they had forgotten. For some reason, it wasn't passed on to them. It wasn't impressed upon them. They didn't know, they had forgotten. There was something that wasn't there, or their hearts were hard. I don't know, but it just says that they had forgotten what God had done. It wasn't something that they kept on reminding themselves on through ceremony or through discussion or through, I don't know how they would have done it, through oral tradition, but it was no longer talked about.
Yeah.
It was no longer discussed. They were thoroughly involved in the world around them and had become a part of the world around them.
Yeah, the cool thing though is we see God gives them a glimmer of hope. He appoints judges or sends out judges to raise up and bring the people out of these bad situations. The difficulty is they quickly jump back into it. It's just, it says something about our characters. We really need to teach and impress this on our children so they don't fall into the same mistakes that we had.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see this because we see how it says that as soon as the judge died, they went back to their old ways. And so what is it that we're learning about human character here? What is it that God wants us to see about our relationships? It looks like we need to be spiritually focused.
Yeah.
And we need to pass that on, and really how important leadership is as well, but that we can't just rely on the leader. It has to also be individual convictions. Because if it's just following the leader, when the leader is gone, like it was here in these cases, the people went back to what they weren't supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And so I think what we're learning here is, yes, leadership is important, but our own relationship with God, our own righteousness, our own making sure that we individually are following God is more important.
Yeah, I think that word that you said, our own righteousness, we need to look at the world around us and really take those bad things that are affecting our hearts and keep them far from us, drive them out of our lives. We shouldn't be involved in things of this world.
And in the chapter before in Judges 1, it talked about how there was different tribes who didn't completely drive out the people, and how later on God said they're going to be tempted to follow their idols.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened. And I agree with you. I think that when there's something in our life, we can't be playing around with it if we know that it's wrong. We have to completely cut it off, get rid of it, because it's going to literally have an impact on us. And not only us, it could have an impact on our children, on future generations. True. Our sin can have long-term effects, just like our righteousness can have long-term effects.
Exactly.
But definitely not allowing, a little bit here, a little bit there. It just reminds me of what he said at the beginning: love the Lord your God with all of your heart and with all your soul. Not 80% and that 20%, I'm going to just do what I want with that 20%. But just know 100%, I want to please God 100% of the time with 100% of my heart.
Yeah, so very true. See you again next time.